Good morning. Good morning. Back on a Friday morning. And I am just me today. I guess Lee is unavailable at the moment. I apologize. So, we're going to actually do almost like a continuation of what I would talk about on Wednesdays. We do have a guest coming up next Friday, but today it's just me. So, we're going to just go with it. And I wanted to talk about something that is, like I said, a continuation of Mastery of the Middle, but it's a general subject that I believe that all entrepreneurs, and especially female entrepreneurs, really deal with. And let me explain why. This is something that is emotional in context, and not saying women, emotion, none of that. I'm just saying we are definitely feeling beings, and we have to deal with everybody's emotions within our family, right? We are responsible for our children's emotions, our spouse's emotions, being a business owner, being sometimes the cab driver to soccer and baseball and all those things. It's a lot going on, a lot to hold on to, and we are always on and responsible. So I'm talking from that viewpoint, only that viewpoint and that viewpoint alone, that we are holding a lot of weight within a family. We're building businesses, and it's just a lot of different things going on. So I want to talk about self sabotage. And the question I wanted to pose today is, how do we kick out self sabotage for good? How do we take care of it? How do we recognize it? And how do we deal with it for the future? My first question I wrote down is, how does self sabotage become the arch enemy for entrepreneurs? Well, plain and simple, we're walking down a path that we have not been down before. You are not holding a map. There may be a mountain, there may be a pitfall, there may be a drop off in the road. There's a lot of things that are unseen. To me, this is just my explanation for younger entrepreneurs. It's the unknown elements of your path that cause us to doubt ourselves. And the reason why I talk about it that way is, first of all, you have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself credit. You are embarking on a path that you have really no clue what it's going to include. And again, as I stated, it's a path you've never walked down before. That's a lot. And remember what we talked about in the beginning. And you still have to be the cab driver, and you still have to make sure that everybody else's needs are met in a family, or even a cat, or even your own. All of those things. So, with all of those things going on, you're also embarking on this path where you almost are walking down blindfolded at first. Over time, it gets easier. Over time, it's a little bit more predictable. But when you start out, it is very unknown. So here is the reason why it's almost like a catch 22 when it comes to self sabotage. The concept of getting a business off of the ground is where we plan our big dream. It's the planning stage. And the problem is often we don't know how to get from the plan to the action. And in between the plan and the action is a lot of times where that cycle begins of doubt. Therefore, self sabotage kicks in. So, do we often catch ourselves thinking about the one day we will be successful, the one day we will find success to reach the goal, to have the big company, to have the life that we desire from the company, all of those things. But a lot of times we get stuck right there saying, I have this dream, but how do I get there? So here's where we really, really get stuck. Starting a new business, here's another example besides the path. Starting a new business is like starting a new relationship. It's amazing at first. At first, there is no flaws. And again, I'm not picking on anyone's relationship, but they're amazing. When you first fall in love with someone, you are in a mindset that is totally different than your normal. Everything is great. You feel like you've connected with someone on a level you've never connected before. It's fun. You can't wait to see that person. You're always expecting to hear from them. You're looking for messages from them. And you cannot wait for the next moment to create a memory with them. And it's filled with possibilities and dreams. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? But what ends up happening? It's the same concept with a new business. During that first phase, a business is full of dopamine, and it's fun, and it's it's larger than life and you're planning and you can't sleep because you have this amazing idea. But the same thing is true and about dating and a relationship. There is a day that you have to decide, am I going to commit to this or not? And that is literally my notes that I wrote down about this. You have to have a day that you decide, are you committing? Wait, was I talking about a relationship or creating a new company? Both. That's the step. That's the step, in my opinion, for us to be able to commit and to be conscious of the self-sabotage. Because if not, that's where the self-sabotage generally kicks in. It's when things get serious. Oh, wait, hold on. Again, relationship or business, both. We have the ability to be conscious of our self-sabotage. And it flares up and it can take control if we're not aware of it. But once we're aware of it, unfortunately, we should have the ability to not ignore it as much because, again, once we're conscious of behavior, the 4 stages of consciousness, then we need to accept that there is an issue or accept that flare up or whatever we want to call it, and then recognize it and then work through it. So for us to be able to take that next step in a relationship or in business, and we're not going down the relationship path today, we just use it as an example, we have to be super conscious of what comes up when we make a commitment. And I wrote this down as well, that there's 2 little words that make us all cringe when advice is thrown at us. Let go. And it's so funny because I wrote this down a couple months ago when I was using this for coaching and some content. And it's so interesting. There is an element of self-sabotage that revolves around control. The unknown is in a lot of ways not, you lose some of that control aspect. You really do. You cannot control every element when you don't have a roadmap and when you're walking down a road blind. You can't control a new relationship. You're hoping and you're putting your best foot forward. You are actively listening. You're trying, being present, making plans with the person. But you have to accept, and we all have been there, that there is a part of a relationship that's unknown. So is a business. Parts of it are unknown when you begin. So the idea of letting go is pretty scary. But that is the best advice that I can give myself. And that's what I'd like to pass to everyone else is you got to let go. You have to set a date, and there needs to be a point that you are going from learning to doing, and you have to stop being a student and step into CEO mode. Now, this is pretty early on too. I'm going to be honest. It has to be earlier than you really think you're ready, and it has to be earlier than you are, before you are an expert, I should say, because it's a mindset change. And you will continue to learn, you will continue to grow, and you will continue to build. But just like a relationship, when it's new and you make that commitment to someone, you start saying, we are together, we are dating, but it's still new. But we do that in a relationship. We need to almost do that with any kind of business that we want as well. And we have to always remember the what ifs are not true. This is something I wrote down for myself as a reminder. This is something that I remind myself all the time, that what ifs never come true. No matter how big the what if can be in my head, they've never come true to date, ever. So, and in fact, I saw this recently, and it was some kind of account on TikTok that was about feeling good and being good and putting things out good in the world. So it had great intentions. And she spoke about, instead of thinking about the worst case scenario, can we think about the best case scenario? And I think that is very applicable here. Instead of going into that panic cycle and self-sabotaging, can we stop ourselves right in that moment and say, what's the best that can happen from this? I have tried my best to reframe for myself into what's the best that can happen since I heard that advice. And I will tell you, I have been a lot more clear-minded, less likely to stop myself, and less likely to get caught up in that cycle because I can move past it quicker. And in fact, I also wrote this down. This is something that I think is very silly, but I did write it down in my notes to remind myself that the monsters under the bed are actually friendly. And I know that sounds absolutely silly, but this is the way my brain works. So welcome. And the reason why I said that was, when we were children, we think about monsters on the bed and we're terrified. We think the blanket over our face will save us. But actually, if we reference the movie Monsters Inc., they were actually friendly. The point is a lot of things that we can think of are way worse, way, way worse than anything that's ever actually come true in our lives, whether it be the what ifs or the monsters under the bed. So, one of the things that I want everybody to remember from this is that when we let go, when we use that advice to let go, our new business that's thriving and successful is just on the other side of it. That's all it takes. It just takes getting to the other side. So I hope this was helpful. This wasn't a really long one. I just wanted to talk to everybody about this because just like anything, these are great reminders for myself as well and all of us. So please understand that this is just like almost like a living diary for myself as well, to be able to remember these things and to be able to practice the things that come out. Because if I put them out into the world and talk about them myself, I better be able to practice it myself. So this is always a learning session for myself. And it will continue to be always. It will always be a learning session for myself first. I will go ahead and I will remind everybody that Lee will be back on Monday with a live, and I will be back next Wednesday. We'll have a new podcast episode out on Tuesday, and we're back next Friday with a brand new guest. Well, not brand new. Nope, sorry. I apologize. I misspoke. She is not brand new. She's been on one of our podcast episodes, but she hasn't been on a live with us yet. So we are very much looking forward to that as well. And don't forget, too, I assigned some homework on the Wednesday live, and I would love to hear some updates about that as well, about networking. So please get going with networking through the group, making appointments. You can always DM myself or Alethea and make appointments with us. So I want everybody to have an absolutely wonderful day. This was a little shorter today. It's Friday. It's beautiful out. I hope everybody gets to enjoy the absolutely beautiful weather. It's overcast here, but it's going to be pretty beautiful. So we're going to get outside and enjoy it as well. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day, as Lee just said. And I will see everybody next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back on Monday. Have a good weekend.